The virtual electronic statement, and then we'll get into business. This meeting of the Solid Waste Subcommittee is being conducted electronically pursuant to Governor Bill Lee's Executive Order Number 16. I would ask for a motion, which will also serve as a roll call, that conducting this meeting electronically is necessary to protect public health, safety, and welfare in light of the coronavirus. I will need a motion.
So moved.
And we have a motion and a second. Rachel?
Commissioner P.
Here.
Commissioner Dodd.
Yes.
Commissioner Harris.
Yes.
Commissioner Piercy.
Yes.
Commissioner Sherino.
Yes.
Commissioner Blair.
Yes.
Chairman Cush.
Yes, we have a full house of committee members. All right, tonight we specifically, and the only thing on our agenda is to discuss the corrections and any other comments we need to add or subtract to the latest draft version of the RFI, which is the request for information that we hope to be sending out very soon to the world for solid waste services to Rutherford County, Tennessee. And we have Becky Caldwell here, the main author of this document. And then, of course, Mac Nolan, who will help with questions and comments. And then we have, of course, the Public Works Committee and the mayor, who will help, hopefully tonight, fill in the missing blanks we still have and add some missing criteria, and we'll agree hopefully on some dates and some periods of how long this RFI will be out in vendors and technology's hands and when these will be due back. So with that being said, I will open the floor to Rebecca and Mac, if you would like to get this jump started, or if you have a logical place where you would like to start, Becky, or bring us up to date to where we are right now.
Thank you, Commissioner. This is the latest draft of the RFI, as he mentioned, and what I did in this version, anything that's in green is what was added from your comments at the last meeting where we discussed it. And then anything in red are things that were brought to my attention that I wanted to either mention to you or put out there on the table to say, are these things you want to include or things that you don't want to include? Hopefully getting to a final document that can actually be put out for response.
Mac, do you have any comments before we get into the body of the RFI?
The only one I may have is we added a financial piece.
Right.
That wasn't originally there.
Right. That would be number 7 out of 7 where we used to have 6 items on that. Right. Okay. All right. Should we go through paragraph by paragraph, or do we just need to discuss the green and red items? What is the wishes of the committee?
I'd like to see green and red.
Okay. All right. Is that okay with you, Becky? All right. That being the case, then saying that, Chairman Harris, and with everybody else in agreement, it would be safe to assume that we are all in agreement then with the text on page 1, page 2, page 3, and that brings us to page 4, which is where we see the first items in red, which we now have 7 pieces of action, with number 2 being added, which was the financial sustainability. And Mac has added an A to that, which is service fees, and then a B, which is billing procedures. Do you want to expand on those, either Either one of you?
I don't think we need to collect money in the centers. I think it's unsafe for our center attendants. So whatever that fee may be decided would need to be collected somewhere elsewhere.
Yeah. Okay. Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. Just jump right in. You don't have to raise your hand. This is an informal, very informal meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to suggest that we wait on adding item number 2 and just have 6 solid waste functions. Remove the financial sustainability and service fees and billing process to eliminate that. And let me share with you my reasoning. We have again and again talked about we want anybody and everybody to come, and the table is wide open for whoever wants to come in and make a presentation. I would suggest to the committee to wait and put this into the RFP once the top 2 or 3 or whatever is decided upon, and then look at service fees, billing processes. But right now, because I think the commission will get criticized for not leaving it wide open to anybody who wants to bring something. Somebody may not have a design on what they want to charge for service fees at this point, but if they're chosen, don't eliminate, I'm just saying don't eliminate anybody on the front end, because we've continued to say that. It's open to anybody and whatever process might be out there. It might be putting garbage on Tesla may want to put it into a rocket and send it to the moon. Who knows? Wait till we get into the RFP at whatever point in time that may be, 60 days or 90 days. Then you'll be able to really focus on what they want to charge and what their fees are going to be. I just throw that out as a suggestion.
All right. Very good. And duly noted. Can I ask Robert and Wayne to make sure you guys are on mute? We're getting some funny feedback. I'm not sure it's on your end, but my suspicion is that would be the logical place to ask. So make sure your mics are on mute until you're ready to chime in. The mayor has got an opinion on the financials that they should be in the RFP portion, not necessarily the RFI. Anybody want to comment on that? Have strong feelings either way? I'm okay with pulling it and putting it in an RFP as we get more fine-tuned. But Becky, do you have any feelings one way or the other? Mac?
No, I'm completely fine with that. Our thought on that was that there may be a bidder that has some kind of program for billing type of stuff. So RFP would be fine for that.
All right.
As long as we address with RP, then I think, because we're going to put a serious lot of attention into the RFP.
Right. Okay. This is more of a broad brush. The RFI is. Okay. Well, Mac, if that's okay, we'll scratch, and Becky, if you're taking notes.
I am.
All right. And Rachel, we'll scratch on our new draft item 2 in red, and we'll keep it at the 6 categories and save the financial sustainability to an RFI. All right. I believe that unless there's any more questions on that particular page, let's turn to the next page, which I see no color-coded text, and I'm assuming there's no questions on that. So let's turn one more page where we begin our first large paragraph of green to comment on. Let's take a second to read that to ourselves so we're able to comment. All right. That just really seems to be about the listing of who the players are, partnerships, and where headquarters and companies reside. Is that the gist of that, Becky?
It is, and it goes hand in hand with the forms we talked about at the last meeting, which are
Right.
attached at the end.
Okay.
So it just kind of explains those in narrative, and then you fill in the blanks at the back of the
Okay.
in the forms.
So will this green portion, the green portion is just basically an explanatory. Is that just your verbiage or your text, or does that green just become a black text?
It can just become black text. I added it in green so that we knew it was added from the last version.
Okay. Okay, does anybody have any questions on that first bullet point then with the green text? If not, we'll just turn it black and leave it in there. All right, we'll just change that to black, Becky. The second bullet point, provide organizational and administrative structure, clear roles and governments. Clear roles and responsibilities and previous experience working with federal, state, and local governments on establishing and implementing solid waste projects is included in the resumes for each team member will be helpful to the response evaluations. Yeah, I think we should leave that in there because that will dovetail, I think, with the portion on how we grade or how we will ultimately measure a technology or a vendor will be with their organizational structure and their past experience. So I think it doesn't hurt to say that twice.
I would like to suggest or clarify, it makes the submittal of resumes for each team member a request as opposed to a mandate. Do we want it, rather than have including, should it say include resumes for each team member, period? Or leave it open-ended, saying it might be helpful to the respondent? Mandatory, or leave it open-ended as it is stated here?
Yeah. Yeah, so you're saying,
Mandate the inclusion of a resume of team members.
so what happens, though, let me ask, I'll play devil's advocate. What happens by the time they start to package their RFI and 60, 90 days, a team member changes, or they add other team members?
Ask for updates.
Okay. Just continual updates.
It just, now I could, devil's advocate, when I hesitated on saying this, perhaps they don't all have resumes, or they're going to have to create resumes, or do we give them some latitude, like this might be burdensome? Perhaps
Yeah.
I think it can go either way, if you're asking my opinion. I think asking for them is helpful, as it says, but then requiring them would give you the information you want on the front end. Obviously, you would want them to have a resume in most cases, only to say what is your experience on one, basically one page. Who are we going to be working with, or who would we be working with if this is the project we choose, or the project that we're going to look closely at.
And again, I'm going to play devil's advocate. How do you define a team member? Is this a white collar dude that's putting the RFI, RFP together, and maybe the technology representatives, or is this a guy you envision that's running the plant or driving the forklift?
I think it should be the proposal team. So, that we're dealing with information in that. And
Right.
We need to know everything about them.
Yeah.
Dealing with.
would it be less cumbersome if this were part of the RFP as opposed to the RFI?
I think you kind of want to know up front who you're dealing with.
We're going to take people seriously on all things. We need to know everything we can.
And I want to cut to the chase too. Let's
Yeah.
get as much bite as we can
Yeah.
early, so that
And I don't want to jump ahead, but if you'll look at the very last page of this packet, of this document, where it says Submittal Summary Form 3, Participating Entities, this is a way we can connect the two. So I'm not sure if you want both. I'm not sure if you want one or the other, require one and not the other. But they kind of go hand in hand as far as seeing where it's listed, the company name, the technology provider, who would design the facility, that type thing. And this came from the other RFI that we had reviewed.
I'm okay with this. It's pretty,
Yeah.
And then do not let me get us any kind of a rut or in the weeds on it. So I think we can perhaps move on and just keep that as just something to, this particular sentence, I'm not demanding it be clarified anymore, but just let's keep it on our radar if we.
Okay. Let's just keep it. You okay with that? All right. Bullet point 3, evidence of financial stability. The green is a copy of the latest available certified financial statement of the respondent or its parent corp. If individual or division financial statements are not prepared and generally available, certified by independent certified public accountants. Okay, so basically we're asking for their financials. Seems fair, right?
well, if we disagree to take the financials out for this RFI, then shouldn't we take that out as well? Because, I mean, we just said we'll do financials when we do an
Well,
RFP.
I think what Mac's financials are is if we were to collect money or set fees, I think those are the financials he's referring to. I think these financials are referring to the financial stability of the actual company or technology that's wanting to work with us.
Okay.
Different set of financials. Yeah, Mac.
The only other thing on this, and he's actually right, it would be the proposer's financials. I can envision us getting some very large corporations, so you're going to get their quarterly statement type thing. And then we're going to have some small companies that I may not want to let you know this that soon. You want to know something, but you may tailor it down a little bit so they don't have to give out all their information. Small individual company versus a big corporate company type thing.
And later on, we're going to run into the discussion about proprietary information and things that would be all for public information. Some people may want to address their financials to be not being public, and perhaps we could put that in the paragraph. We could weave that into the paragraph that we'll talk about if you want certain things to be if you have certain proprietary information that wants to remain in the non-public file, that they clearly write that on each page and put it in a separate envelope. We can chat about that when that paragraph comes. But are we okay with the financial part as written? I mean, we want to know the financial strength of whoever we're talking about.
I will say, just for transparency, I've heard from a couple of small companies that have just asked general questions that have said, we may or may not want to actually disclose exactly what you've said, Commissioner.
Yeah.
So I think if we actually have the verbiage in there that does protect that information, they would be amenable to that.
But we can always run a Dun & Bradstreet on a company ourselves, couldn't we? I mean, there's ways of finding out. So, all right.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir. Mr. P. Commissioner P. Chairman P.
Just a question, since this information should be public record, I don't know that we could withhold any of that information. That'd be something we need to run past our attorney, I'd say.
Talking about their financials?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, any information they give us should be, in the public. So it should be accessible as far as I would know. That's a question for our attorney.
Yeah.
Before we say we can withhold information that they give us.
Yeah, we'll save that topic for just a little bit later, because I know there's certain proprietary technology that some companies would like to protect, and sometimes we have to sign a confidentiality agreement, and I know, and we certainly need to talk to our attorney, but if there's certain proprietary information that a company does not want leaked to the public, we would sign a form, they would stamp on every page that this is to remain confidential. And I think legally, they can ask that and we can request that, but that's something to ask our attorney.
Thank you.
Because there could be intellectual property they
Yeah,
want.
that's right. And they wouldn't want their other competitors to find out at this point in time. Happens in business every day. All right, so we're okay with the green as noted on the financial background. So, all right, that takes us to turn the page. And top of the page should read, Respondents shall expect fair and equal treatment with respect to any opportunity to discussion revisions or RFI submittals. And then it says the committee to rank submittals on the criteria based on the following criteria, something to that effect. All right, so this is where it starts to get a little open for discussion.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
I just want to throw this out here to the committee. Some of the things that I've put on here for criteria is, and I'll slow down if you need me to. One is fiscal year revenue, rapid growth, proven technology, innovation, and social contribution. And also want to put in here industry recognition and awards. So these are just some things that I've kind of grouped together that we can look at when we're looking at these different companies. It's just simple, like, the key word here is criteria.
Right.
So these are just some of the things that I've kind of threw out there that a lot of marketing companies look at and bid companies look at is these kind of subjects.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
that last bullet point, Commissioner Harris, on rapid growth, could we make that a little more definitive and say it's fiscal year revenue growth rate over a 3-year period? I'll say that again.
Yeah.
Fiscal year revenue growth rate over a 3-year period. I think it's a little more, it gives you, what are they doing year after year, and that you see that physical increase.
I'm just going to jump in as
Yeah, break this.
I'm spitballing.
Yeah. See what
I
it
had
says.
my 4 criteria. I just simply used the 4 because that was listed. Keep it simple. I went more of a high level, Craig, to give us lots of latitude, but also allow us to dispense with some quickly. So I just did submittal complete, financial stability, references/resumes, or strength thereof, or quality of the references, quality of the resumes, and number 4, success rate of their process, which I'll prefer your term, proven technology. In this publication, I think we need to leave it higher level in this at this junction. And then the specifics of your evaluation may be more of an internal information that we use to dissect the 4 big categories. Does that make sense? Number 1, submittal complete. Number 2, financial stability, and those could flop. Number 3, references/resumes. And then number 4, success rate of number 4, proven technology. Or, yeah, at the same time, we want them to be innovative, I don't know, which won't be proven technology, but I don't, so that may get kicked out. But so that's my thoughts, Craig. Just is that a higher level?
Do you like proven technology, or
I do.
you like
yeah.
that in there?
Oh, I do. It was
Okay.
that was the better. That was the you clarified. I was trying to grab a term to. So proven technology, I think, is critical.
But also, one of the things that we talked about too is these companies had to have some type of education programs, to educate, our county. So that's why I wanted to put social contribution in there. Are you going to teach us how to recycle? Are you going to educate our children? You going to, what are you going to do to make your technology a benefit to the county? Does that make sense? I mean, just like if you're going to build a recycling company and you want to come in here and build a recycling company, then how are you going to teach it?
Yep.
What are you going to do? How are you going to get people educated to know what to even recycle?
Let's talk about, you mentioned the technology and the experience. Proven technology.
Proven technology is a good term.
Okay. Would you, at this point, assign some sustainable timeframes, such as in order to qualify, you must have shown 2 years of successful experience in operating that technology in the U.S. or in North America or in the world? I mean, we don't, I won't say we. I personally don't want to be a guinea pig to a new technology. So I'm asking, do we put a caveat that you must show or prove that you have X amount of months or years of, that this is proven technology and you are successful in other areas? Does that need to be part of the measuring stick?
I think so. And I'll tell you why, because I think we're going to get some outlandish stuff,
Yeah.
and kind of like, ship it to the moon stuff. And I mean, we need to have, I'd like to see proven technology. I think we're in such a situation now with our waste management, we cannot just sit here and throw, somebody come in here and say invest $56 million and we'll come up with this. We don't have the money or we don't have that. We don't need to do that. That's my opinion. I'm speaking only for me, but I think it should be proven. And I agree with you, Mr. Chairman. They need to have some type of track record. If I'm speaking too much, I apologize.
No, you're not at all.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir. Mr. Blair.
Wayne Blair, do we consider innovation and proven technology the same?
Not necessarily.
That's a tough one.
Not necessarily.
Innovation was at the top of my list, and the second one, but proven technology, I think is extremely important as well, along with the revenue growth that the mayor suggested, but the historical performance with past communities, and I think that's been kind of mentioned as well. So those were my four, and I just did four because there was just four there as well.
We have seen proven technology work on really small scales, but they won't work on large scales. So some kind of scalability needs to be in that process.
Well, that's a good point. So let me ask.
Well, may,
Let's jump in.
I think all of us are correct, and I think Craig's dissecting the criteria. I think for page 7, the committee will rank needs to be high level and simple, and then Craig's details are part of the selection method at the bottom of the page. That's kind of what I'm getting at. At this, if you might contemplate that, Mr. Chairman.
Say that one more time. I'm sorry.
The 4 criteria at this
Yeah.
juncture of the RFI. Keep it simple, high level, 4 broad categories.
Yeah.
We're kind of knocking on the same 4 that those 3 of us who have spoken about it. And then the criteria that dig into it, as Craig suggested, at the bottom of the page on selection method. Let's just get these 4 items, 4 bullets, high level, give us some latitude to throw out some of the apps, and then here momentarily we'll get into the specifics of how this committee is going to make selection.
If I understand what you're saying, and I'm a simpleton, so if I understand what you're saying, the 4 points of the selection criteria, and I'm sorry, I'm getting too many papers already spread out. I think I hear you say, kind of keep those, for the lack of a better explanation, gray. That gives us a lot of maneuverability where, I mean, they have to certainly define themselves, prove themselves, but yet don't define it so much that it pins us down to where if we just don't like the technology or it doesn't meet our standards or it's a first of, or like Max said, it works really good in this big, but it's not scalable to our need of this big, we could say, sorry, man. And then you're fine tuning it maybe a little bit more in the scope of, is that kind of what you're saying? Okay.
And there's no magic number to 4. I mean, you can do 3 or 5 or, you know, it was just.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Craig, one of the bullet points that you mentioned was social what?
Contribution.
Social contribution. That hit home to me. I think I've said it several times in discussions in the past. Whatever direction we go with, and wherever we decide to put this, whether it be in the first 4 or 5 or further down, as Commissioner Dodd talked about, I think social contribution is so important, because whatever technology, whatever process that the company that is awarded the contract, I think it's so important, because I have said numerous times, we have to change the culture in this county for people to buy into, whether it be curbside recycling, whether it be starting through education. That's half of it. That's the grants that we get. Half of the grants that we get from TDEC, half of it's education. The letter grants, half of it's education. And by using those principles that they have been, whatever company has been successful with in other parts of the social contribution, participating in Earth Day, participating in curbside recycling, those type things of getting the people to understand why we don't need to throw it out the window, and participate in our waste stream and reducing it, and instead of just dumping it. So wherever you feel that needs to go, but I think it needs to play a very important part in this.
So do we all agree on technology or innovation, or do we all agree on that one?
Yeah, I mean, you're just
Proven
going to...
technology, so we got 1 down, now we need 3 more.
Well, I guess technology and innovation would fall under experience and capabilities, right? I'm just talking. I mean, don't be writing stuff down yet. I'm talking out loud. So you have, be careful. Experience, capabilities, right, and resources. To me, would be one measuring stick. And then you have experiences of the project team. We put a lot of emphasis a minute ago about resumes. We want to know who the team players are and what their experience is. So to me, a B would be the capabilities of the project team. We want to know how smart these cats are and what they've done all over the country or all over the world. And then we laid out a scope, right? Becky and Mac laid out a scope of what we want. So maybe the measuring stick is, do they understand the scope? How have they addressed the scope? Do they understand what our county's needs are? And how are they going to work with us to get to that point? How are we all going to be one big happy family and communicate to get to where we want to go? Again, I'm just talking, okay? Again, I'm trying to keep these things broad enough to where they get an idea of what we want, but yet it's broad enough to where we can say we don't like you if they don't have the experience, or they don't impress us with the experience that we think they ought to have to take over the county solid waste program. And let me ask you, what about the whole scheduling of the thing? Don't we want to know how fast they could build, produce, bricks and mortar equipment? I mean, if we're running out of landfill space, do we not want to maybe a schedule of when can you start and when can you finish and be in operation? Should that play a little part on?
I certainly agree. My point is, I think those details, Craig's thoroughness and your details, are simply define the next step bullets at the bottom of the page.
Okay.
Where we're at the top of the page, I think, is broader.
Okay.
And then where Craig's drilled into it, I think is just simply a step we're going to discuss momentarily.
Chairman Cush?
Yes, sir.
My opinion is that we're almost to the level of making this more difficult than it really needs to be.
Yeah.
What I'm hearing, some of the questions that we have would need to be asked when they submitted their offers or projects or whatever, when they presented their response back, and at that time a lot of these questions could be asked then, because it's been said we're going to look at everything everybody offers. And if we make this too difficult right here, some people will just, I don't want to look at that, you know.
Mr. Piercy, yeah, I agree. I don't want to make it too difficult, but yet I don't want to give, and Chairman Harris alluded to this early on, I don't want to get the county bombarded with a 50-page document on how some Einstein is going to build rockets and shoot them to the moon and fill the moon full of solid waste. Because I'm telling you, the crazies will come out. They really will.
As a committee, we should have the ability to see through that pretty quick.
Well, I know, and I think you're right, but I think what we're trying to do is set up enough logic, expertise, and technology in our requirements that would keep out the crazies from trying to even submit.
He's correct. We just need to keep this step simple and
Yeah.
dig in later. That's
Okay.
my only point.
All right.
Keep this one simple and then dig in momentarily.
Yeah. All right.
To Steve's point, I agree with Steve. Just
All right.
pick a few bullets, move on.
All right. Let's take a step back then, and let's review. Where are we on what we think 3 or 4 or 5 steps should be?
Innovation, proven technology.
All right.
Wayne had
Now you can start to write, Steve.
Wayne had 4. What were yours, Wayne?
What were mine? Is that what you asked? Oh.
Did you ask what mine was, Commissioner?
Yes, sir.
I had innovation, but throwing in proven technology along with that. The revenue growth rate suggested by the mayor and the historical performance with past communities. And I'd like to add the social contributions as well. Those would be my 4.
Did we miss anything? Craig, I can see your wheels turning. What do you want to add?
The only thing is on social contribution, which I think is very important, but then if we got somebody who's bidding on a landfill to dig it up and fix it, and some of the people will be bidding on that, then I don't see where that social contribution would really attribute to that. So what I'm trying to say is, I'm just saying, you know, social contribution, it doesn't necessarily kick you out or eliminate you because your industry doesn't have that. But I think it should be in there. So I like what Commissioner Dodd and, you know, innovation, social contribution, and what's the other ones, Phil?
Financial stability,
Historic
strength of
performance.
references, and proven technology innovation. And there's 3. I think one that we need, top of the heading, submittal complete. If we get a half-baked submittal, we toss it. And I think that's the point of this broad-based component here. And to Steve's point, keep it simple. Half-baked, gone. No finances, gone. References, resumes, 1 line, no phone number, gone. Success rate, never been seen before, gone. Now, all the others, that's, I think, the point of this step. All the digging in is later.
I'll say that's a very good point, Commissioner, if for no other reason than to say you followed the instructions. That's just something that's pretty basic, that you'd hope folks would follow the instructions and the things that you've asked for and respect the process.
Based on your experience, Becky, is there anything you would want to see added or explained in the 4 items, 5 items?
I think the list that you all have put together is inclusive. When you start to look at the different, you know, technology is one piece, and then is the submittal complete, their financial stability we've mentioned. There's nothing specific about that. It's show us that you're viable, show us that you can do what you.
Is it all inclusive? Does it shut the door on anybody?
Off the top of my head, I don't think it does. Mac, do you? I think it's open enough.
I don't think you want to close the door on anybody. I think you want to be able to close the door if need be.
Right.
But also you want to leave it a little bit questioned so Steve gets some phone calls.
Yeah.
And I don't think it does exclude anyone on the front end. I think it's broad enough.
Right.
Flexible.
We all in agreement, all okay, ready to move on? Virtual group, be okay? All right.
Just a quick question, Chairman. On the proven technology, the one that we've looked at where you're turning trash into jet fuel, I mean, is there a facility out there? I mean, if you're saying it's a proven technology, I don't know that there's one already out there. I missed one of the meetings where that was described. Would that exclude that group?
Mr. Chairman, I believe Fulcrum was the company. They're based out of California, but their facility was supposed to be up and running and producing fuel by early February. Both investors in that company, there were several, including the Department of Defense, but Waste Management and Republic were both investors, I believe, based on that presentation they made that night. But I believe their facility in Reno, Nevada was supposed to be up and running by 1st of February.
Well, if it isn't the way we have this worded, would that exclude them?
I don't know.
Good point. is there a better word for proven? Advanced? I don't know.
May I suggest viability of technology?
Viable
Period.
technology.
Move on.
Yeah, viable technology.
So let's just cover those 4 or 5 that you want actually included on this document. We want submittal complete, innovation and viable technology, financial stability. Is that correct?
Yeah.
References and resumes. And did I miss one?
Are you?
Historic performance. So there are 5. Okay.
Read those off when you're done, one more time. You're talking about the ranking criteria?
Yes.
Okay.
Please. So I had the submittal is complete, innovation and viable technology, financial stability, references and resumes, and historic performance.
Social, yeah.
Social contributions
Social
was the one.
contributions. You think that needs to be in there now?
I think it could be involved in the next step.
Okay.
I agree, Commissioner Dodds, we need to make this, not so detailed like what I was doing. So I think my detail should be at the next step. So I agree with what
Right, social.
Becky just had.
All right. Moving on. The next green section talks about the reasons we can disqualify responses. All those seem in order to me. Does anybody have any comments on 1 through 4? And for those at home, it's basically if you've ever been caught colluding or poor financial, or if you've defaulted on any public contract in the past, if your workmanship has been shown to be shoddy, these are all reasons for rejection. Any comments on that? All right. Moving forward, requests for information submittals. Responses shall be sealed and received in hand no later than, we need to pick a time and a date. And then this says no electronic or fax submittals will be considered. I want to revisit that topic real quickly again. Rutherford County reserves the right to reject any or all responses. I can't emphasize that enough. This is a request for information, not a competitive bidding process. And let's see, all responses, inquiries, or correspondence relating to or in reference to this RFI, and all reports, charts, displays, schedules, exhibits, and other documents provided by companies will become the property of Rutherford County. And my printer printed that red in a really light yellow, and I can't hardly read it. Becky, what does the next line say? Verbiage to protect any and all information shared during this process until public awarded, considered proprietary information. Yeah, the Iran statement. I do have a comment on that, but let's go back to the top of that. I guess we'll start with the time and the date. Becky, do you have feelings on? It sounds like we perhaps can get through this review tonight. And that being said, they haven't started court. Did they start the court drilling on the 11th?
No, they got tied up on the job they're currently working on. They're supposed to start this coming Monday.
Okay. And we kind of all agreed that we could go ahead with the RFI, and when the core drilling samples and report get documented and the report's ready to go, anybody that requests that report could contact the county and we could send copies of that report. So we don't have to wait on that to be part of this process. Becky, let me ask you, or both of you, but mainly Becky, do you have in your magic Rolodex, for those of you who still know what a Rolodex is, how can we take this document and shoot it nationally, or even worldwide for that matter? How do you have the ability or the access or the associates? Do you have the clout? I'm trying to think of all the kind of words I can use.
If I know folks I can send this to, I do.
Do you rub elbows with the right people that can take our RFI and get it across all
I do.
continents?
Yes, sir, I do.
Okay. Because we don't want this just to go out locally. We want this to go national,
For sure.
worldwide. Okay.
There are lots of folks watching it to see how this turns out and to see what choices are made.
Okay, all right. So, with your experience, what kind of a time frame when we hit the go button, or when this hits the U.S. Post Office or FedEx or whatever, however we're going to get these out, what kind of time frame before we want to receive? First of all, I know we've got a little meeting we talked about that's non-mandatory to get in, which maybe we want to talk about that first, but do we need a 60-day turnaround, a 90-day turnaround? What, in today's climate, knowing that a lot of folks are still not in an office, they're still working from home, what is your recommendation for us to debate a time frame?
I've seen these go anywhere from 30, 60, or 90 days. I would say that 60 days after we get the final document and your attorney blesses it. I think 60 days from then, when it's actually put out there for response. I mean, you hope they know their business and they know their business well enough to make the answers to these questions or the answers to these categories fairly quickly, and they know it well enough to explain it. They may need to do some research on the county specifically or the waste stream specifically more than what we've offered. But you hope they know their technology and their process and their business better than to give them. And that's what you're really asking them to tell you.
Yeah. So we're in basically mid-May, June, July. So would August 1st be a appropriate? Yeah, I'm sorry. Steve, you looked at the mayor like the mayor was trying to get my attention. You're using your fingers, I noticed, too, yes.
I think we're ready to be assertive enough. We could have it ready June 1 is a reasonable goal, and 60-day turnaround's August 1.
Well, yeah, even if we had it ready to go on May 21st, I'm just counting. I'm just thinking.
Yeah, mid-May-ish.
Yeah. Does Chanto?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. You said you will send this out to all countries like Canada, Germany, France. And
Sure.
Oh, okay. That's fine.
Yeah. I think, to me, 60 days feels like a reasonable time for this big of a review process. I feel personally 60 days is a reasonable ask. I think 30 is a little expedited. I mean, you guys are in the construction business like I am. What are your feelings, Phil and Craig?
I think 60 is more than enough. I mean, because it's kind of like this is what they do for a living.
Yeah.
They have people, do this every single day. So I think 60 days would be more than enough.
All right. Let's say Steve's thinking about all the phone calls. Let's do a 60-day. And do you want to just shoot for August 1? Or I mean, we could do 45. We want to just hit August 1?
Yes.
August 1, 2020. Okay, that's when all these submittals are due back. Matt? August 3rd is a Monday? Okay, August 3rd is a Monday.
What time of day?
Normally, like 2 Central Time or something like that, 1 Central Time. I mean, normally yeah. Let's do high noon, Central Standard Time. Okay.
Why no electronic submittals, especially we're going global here? What's the motive behind no electronic submittals?
Yeah, let's chat about that. We said no electronic, I think, in the next line that I read. But my personal opinion is, in today's world, particularly if we're talking international potentials, why would we not want to allow, 4 or 5 hard copies and 1 e-copy?
Most of that in our process is intended, don't fax it to the courthouse and don't email it. They want it actual come in the mail. Now, if you're talking about a thumb drive or a CD or something like that, I think that's acceptable.
Yeah. Well, and we could clarify that. We could say a thumb drive, or Mayor or Rachel, do you have a comment? Or if our IT guy's listening in the background, does he have a comment on, would that short circuit our system if people started mailing hundreds of pages of document and drawings?
Rachel can answer this, but we get, our bids in from purchasing. We get thumb drives in the mail that we have to load up and pull off documents all the time, so that's not an issue. But yeah, you got a 300-page document. I mean, that's going to take a little while to get through it. And she corrected me, it's 4 o'clock, not 12 o'clock, so I thought it was 12. But you're talking August deadline. August 3rd is the first Monday. Is that what you said? Okay, I'm sorry, I didn't catch that.
That would put our Public Works meeting the next night, normal schedule.
I don't, we'd have to have time to go through all that. Yeah, it may take 7 wheelbarrows to bring it up. Yeah, I do too. So let me suggest that we will accept hard copies. And is there a magic number of hard copies? Do we need to have 3, 5, more than 1?
When we do hard copies, it's 11.
Oh my gosh.
And for the Public Works meeting, because each member gets one, the mayor would get one, I would get one, Rachel would get one. That's for everybody that's going to be sitting there that needs it. The number's 11.
And you save the county money.
And that speaks to the submittal complete piece. The submittal complete, that speaks to that piece as well.
So was that the ask? 11 hard copies? And we need to be clear in our text that 11 hard copies and 1 thumb drive, or thumb drive optional? I just want to make sure they understand they got to have 11 hard copies regardless. They can't just send a hard drive and not 11 hard copies. I just want to make sure they understand that.
I think you asked for 1 master copy, which would be Rachel's.
Yeah.
Because she has to keep all those things anyway.
Yep.
And then the other wouldn't necessarily have to be masters. So if you've got the Iran statement, it would have to be on a master copy. It doesn't necessarily have to be on the other. And then if they're going to send something electronically as a piece of that, then it would need to be also in each of the 11. Okay. And then the other suggestion is we may want to push that back a week or 2. I mean, we don't want to try to open these things and then have it at the actual Public Works meeting. We need to have a special call meeting for that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's just the deadline of them getting it in is August 3rd,
That's
you
right.
know,
Yeah.
12 o'clock or 4 or whatever. But the thumb drive, so we can load it up and have it on your iPads as well as a PowerPoint if we need it.
Oh, and let me ask you a question, Mayor, and I guess we'll ask legal. We don't have to necessarily review these, or do we? Do we have to review these publicly, open these publicly on air and review? Or can we narrow 300 proposals down to a top 20 and then discuss all that in our public works? Yeah, because we're not bidding on anything. There's no money. We're not buying. We're just, these are thoughts and information exchanges. So that, maybe that's a legal question. But I don't think I want to, not because I'm trying to hide anything from the public, I just don't know that we want to, on air at a meeting or 100 or tens of meetings, go through 150, rip open the envelope, and like we do in purchasing.
I think
go through a proposal.
And maybe I shouldn't say this. I mean, I'm chiming in. You said chime in, so I'll chime in.
Yeah.
Transparency is ultimate number one goal any time, anywhere. So we're talking about throwing everything on top of the table here.
Right.
You know, then we have a special meeting like tonight, and we open them all up. Hopefully, we have that many.
Yeah.
But we can keep you posted on how many we're getting in or whatever, if it's that last day. And then when we set that special meeting for that, we've only got 2.
Yeah.
Or we've only got 15 or 20 or something. So we could narrow that down then and come with the top 3 or something like that. But, you know, I think you open them all up.
Yeah.
It's all public. Here it is. This is what we got. It shows all the commissioners, shows our citizens of Rutherford County.
Yeah.
Hey,
Steve,
we got some interest here.
Yeah, Steve, you're exactly right. And let me retract or rephrase. I'm not saying that behind closed doors we go through and rip open a bunch of envelopes. Although the way I said it before, it kind of inferred that. That's not really what I meant. What I didn't want to do is at our regular Public Works meeting is to open up 300 proposals, and it would take 30 or 40 minutes to go through each one. And then do we debate them? Do we rate them? Do we give them a point? That would take hours, days. We would have to have multiple. If we did it once a month, you couldn't do it. So my suggestion is this meeting, this solid waste subcommittee, we do that here. And what public, whatever media, whoever wants to come can sit back there and take all the notes they want to take. And we do that here. And if we have to do 5 meetings in 2 weeks to get through 50 or 100 submittals, that's just what we have to do. And we'll obviously work around our schedules, but that's what we'd have to do. And then in the meantime, in the 60 days, we're going to have to figure out what's our measuring, our criteria, but how are we going to rank them? 25 points for technology, 25 points for team member, 10 points for, financials. We got to figure out a way to grade them and cull. So we got a lot of work ahead, right?
I would just say, let's remember that anything that is proprietary would need to be redacted on the front end.
Okay, let's open up that can of worms right now. Say that again and expand on that.
So anything proprietary would need to be redacted so that it was not offered to the public, only because there are certain companies out there that do have proprietary information and proprietary technology that they prefer to keep as such. Folks have applied for patents they haven't gotten yet. There are things out there that are new technology.
Okay.
If you'll remember, we toured one facility that we all had to sign for that before we took the tour.
Right. All right, let me read you something, if you'll humor me for a second, because I know we all did homework and looked at other RFIs and other things like that. I found this from Deschutes County, which is actually where my brother retired to, in Bend, Oregon. This was on an RFI of theirs, and here's what it said. For submittal requirements. It said, be advised that proposals submitted in response to this RFI are subject to public disclosure as required by applicable state and federal laws. If you intend to submit any information with your proposal which you believe is confidential, proprietary, or otherwise protected from public disclosure, parentheses, trade secret, etc., you must separately bind and clearly identify all such material. The cover page of the separate binding must be read, and the header or footer of each page must provide as follows: not subject to public disclosure. Where authorized by law, and it is the sole discretion, fill in the blank, Rutherford County will endeavor to resist public disclosure of properly identified portions of that proposal. So, sounds pretty clean cut to me. So we're basically saying, look, man, if you want to keep your secret a secret, we'll honor that, but you need to package it up and stamp it all over and stamp every page, do not release to the public or something therefore after, and we will honor that. Sounds fair to me. And that's basically what you're saying. Okay.
So if we do that, how do we discuss their technology?
Well,
we discuss whether, like, Mike, I don't believe we can go to the moon.
Yeah.
And someone else tell, how do we as a group discuss technology? I understand how it should be. It should be behind, where we're not live, but if we're having to be transparent, which is what you're saying, how do we do this?
I think you can always speak of a technology in general terms. You can read it off their website. It will be in general terms. But the fact that if you unscrew this panel and you see these 8 gizmos, and the fact that, or there are 7 squirrels in a cage that's powering this gizmo, they want to keep that a secret. So we just don't show the diagram on the PowerPoint that when you undo these 7 screws, that the power source is the 7 squirrels in a cage. That's what they want to keep a secret. That doesn't have to be discussed. The general thing is that if you put garbage in and it comes out in zirconium diamonds, that's the technology. And that's pretty cool. And we'll sell the diamonds on the street and make money. But we don't have to know how the little monkeys inside that technology are changing the garbage into zirconium diamonds. That's what we're trying to protect.
So you're saying
sounds simple to me.
Trash makes jet fuel, so that's
yeah. Trash makes jet fuel. Don't ask us how.
Let's get Nick's input on that. But now in the delivery date and then the 60-day, because that's critical. How do you and I dialogue about it if we can't?
And you could reference it as the type of technology, gasification or whatever that technology is.
There's that paragraph in orange if you want it. All right, moving on. Everybody okay with that? I think we need to protect, I think it's our duty to protect certain proprietary information.
Chairman Cush?
Yes, sir.
On our time and date, are we required to a time to give them some type of reply, whether we're in or out, interested to look or not?
Yes, we should respond to all applicants, whether they're in or out, if they will be moving on to the next phase, the RFP phase. And thank you for bringing that up. We'll get to that in just a second. All right, let's continue on. Okay, we finished your proprietary selection method. Bottom of the page. Criteria for how respondents are chosen to proceed to the next steps in the process. For each response, include number of references, is that right? From other public entities where your technologies are currently or have recently been managed in similar volumes of waste. Okay, and define steps, right? Is that what that says, Mac?
It is.
Mr. Chairman,
On the steps, yes.
I need to go back one on Iran's statement.
Yes.
We passed a resolution, steering committee and this commission, to where we cannot take any bids unless you have a signed Iran statement. So we need to have that when they bring in their hard copies. They got to have a copy of that Iran statement because we passed that as a commission.
Okay. Would everybody know what an Iran statement is in business? Okay. Would you make sure that gets noted that they need a notarized Iran statement as part of their submittal package? Thank you, Chairman.
I think that's going to be very serious because some of these companies are global. So we need to have that.
All right, let's talk about, Becky, what your thoughts are on the bottom of the page about defining the steps of the selection method.
Can we back up one step and talk about how many references you want folks to
sure.
submit?
Well, this is assuming that they have references. Your thoughts?
If it's proven technology and we're not going to be a guinea pig for something, they should have at least one somewhere. And I'd prefer more than one. May not be possible.
Some of these newer technologies may not have 3. Maybe.
I think that's just a number that you all decide on. I mean, what do how, and I don't want to use this term and sound derogatory, but how proven do you want their technology to be?
I would suggest 3, and the 3 may come from the same public entity, but 3 different
people,
team members of that entity, and 3 seems like an industry standard I use often here.
I agree.
Make sure they don't have the same last name. All right, 3. The number would be 3. Okay.
Here's where
This is where we go back to the discussion.
Now it's like headings and bullets. This is an outline. I don't know how to do this part, man. This is where the rubber meets the road.
All right. Well, this is where we expound on you all's original thoughts on the 4 ranking items. So the main sentence is criteria on how respondents are chosen to proceed to the next step in the process, which would be the RFP. So how do we define winners and losers? And again, you may want to be somewhat gray in this area to give us latitude.
You may want to go back up a couple of, we're looking at receiving these things August. And Commissioner Piercy kind of brought it up. I think that's where he was going, to how long is it going to be before they know? So if we receive them whatever day, and then we're going to need 2 weeks, 3 weeks, whatever time frame to go through them, and then let them know from there.
Can we do it in 30 days? Huh? You don't? Yeah, I mean, it depends on how many we
It'll
get.
depend on how many you've got, to look through. the 30 days would be putting it pretty tight, I would think. You know, if you wasn't going to get but 3, it wouldn't be any trouble. But you may get 200 or 300. You don't know.
Do you have a gut feel on what?
I don't. I've had folks reach out with questions. Wow, I never thought about that. Or, okay, great, put your name in the hat.
We
One of
give
the things, I'm sorry.
And that doesn't
One
mean they'll
thing's
come
concerned-
forward. It just means they've called and said, hey, I'm interested.
Like, what do we do if somebody has a question? Do they call the chairman? Do they call
Well,
you and you answer all their questions? You come to us, or you just, how does that work?
After we designate everything here, I should be very familiar with what we're asking for, but I'm going to lean on Mac and Becky. They're going to be on speed dial if we get a question, but we can get back with them with that answer. I want to make sure it's the right answer. When you factually tell them what we got to have.
when you turn the page, we need to define a day and a time for a non-mandatory meeting, in person and viral, where people can ask questions about the scope. And that needs to happen fairly quickly, probably a couple of weeks after we know people have received the RFI document. And then at some point in time, I would assume we'd want to cut off questions.
And one of the ways that folks usually do this is by email. So the question has to be in writing.
Yeah.
It's sent to Steve. Steve prepares a response, and then a response goes out to everyone. So everyone gets the same information.
Everybody's on the same page.
And you don't have to have a meeting. I mean, you can have a meeting. Some are mandatory, some are not. But the questions can be emailed. Is one way that folks do it now.
So that will have to happen in a couple of weeks after the RFIs are out, and then questions will start to come in. So
We're going to give them 60 days to submit. Can't we take 60 days to reply? Is that pushing it too far out or not?
I mean, we could. My
October.
Yeah, I mean, Mike Cush, the chopper, thinks 60 days is too long. But I also have to be a realist, because if we get 100, it will take 60 days to go through and filter out.
Steve, would you consider we will take up to 60 days based on the number of respondents, or sooner based on the number.
Sure.
But we might need 60, so I'd like to kind of have that in there.
I just don't want us to get hemmed up.
Yeah,
I don't think 60 is too long, because I think it's a reality of what we may have to do.
Well, and if you say within 60 days, if you respond in 3 days to 5 days, if you have, a handful, then that's not. I mean, you've responded within 60 days.
okay with that.
Kind of just back, when they come in, we do need to stamp them in some way. I guess purchasing does that, so that's a given. Okay.
Timestamp. All right. So we covered Commissioner Piercy's question about we're going to respond back within 60 days. We kind of said, although not in total agreement, but that there will be a call for questions roughly 2 weeks after we know that the RFIs have been mailed out or sent out. And then if we think we need to have a cutoff date for questions, then Becky, I'll let you decide if we need to establish that. So I think that brings us now to, again, the bottom of the page, where we now have to define criteria on how the respondents are chosen to go to the RFP. So let's go back, Phil and Craig and others, to what we think the right text would be to give everybody some wiggle room. Now I'm going to find my little green tabs where I had some notes on my homework. And,
Chairman?
Yes, sir. Jump in.
One thing, we talked about finances, but one thing that I want to be part of the reasoning for going with them is cost, the cost to the county and the cost to our citizens.
Okay. All right, cost to the county and cost to the citizens in a financial arm of the RFI.
I'm sorry, I thought you said RFP, the decision to go to an RFP. I mean, I want that to be part of the decision-making process, you know, or at least it's going to be part of mine, is what's the cost?
Yeah. But that would be in the RFP stage, would you agree? Not necessarily RFI stage?
I would, but I thought that's what you were discussing.
Okay, no, I'm sorry. What we're trying to establish now, Chairman P, is the selection criteria for those that would go forward to an RFP. Is he right? Would the financial part come in? No, it's still too early. That would be part of the writing of the RFP. We're just trying to get these guys to the RFP.
That's
right.
Too early, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah. So, right, your financial part would be part of the text of the RFP scope.
When they bring it back, they will actually show what they're going to charge.
Right. That would be to come back at the RFP. So right now, we're just trying to figure out the measuring criteria for the RFI, the meat and potatoes on how we measure the folks to be able to go on to the next phase, which would be to qualify for the RFP. Does that make sense?
Okay, I'll hold that till the RFP then, as long as it gets in there. So.
Okay, all right, come on, comments. Time's a wasting.
Vision this, Craig, as like an outline. Big heading, check, or?
Yeah, so if we go to define the next steps where we have technology and innovation, then it should be proven technology and innovation. Yeah, see, that's the thing, is how are we going to rank all these?
It could be. It could be a checkbox. Yeah. And we don't necessarily have to assign it points here. We could assign points internally between now and August 1st. But, I mean, what do you want? For instance, let me throw something out. Again, this is not plagiarism when you borrow other things. It's called research when you borrow other people's stuff. Here's one. Does the offerer have the character, integrity, reputation, judgment, experience, efficiency required by the RFI? Has the offerer performed satisfactorily in previous contracts of similar size and scope? Fair question. I'm just spitballing here. Does the offerer have the ability, capacity, skill, and financial resources to provide the requested service? Yeah, never hurts to ask.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Mr. Belair.
So I'm feeling a little redundancy here. To me, what we decided before was where the committee will rank all submittals based on the following criteria. Why is that not not the same answer.
Well, that's a great question, a fair question.
Talked about making this a little bit deeper dive as far as the things that Commissioner Harris had shared on the front end when he started to say the things that we did not include up at the top of this same page. So
Yeah.
we talked about awards and recognition, social contributions, and that type thing that could potentially fit here. And basically, we're saying these are the things, you have the criteria at the top, but the next steps are, we're going to look at this, we're going to ask ourselves these questions, or we're going to respond to you within 60 days, or what are the next steps, and what would you want them to know? So that they know what to expect.
I think, yeah, and let me just add on maybe one word. I think what we're trying to do at this point, Commissioner Blair, is define the eligibility of each technology that's going to respond. We gave you a broad scope up front with these 4 things: innovation, technology, historic performance. Now we're going to drill down just a little bit, and here's what we think is going to make you eligible, and that is your performance, your financial backing, your the list goes on. So we're getting into the personal. We're like the camel. We're sticking our head under the tent just a little bit. We want to see what you're made of, and if you really have the wherewithal to roll with us. So I think we're really trying to open the book on these people at this point, to see if they're worthy and to warn them this is what we're looking for and can you measure up. That's how I see it. I think it's a little different than the first couple of pages with the grand 4 or 5 things on the criteria.
I'm gonna make a stab at it.
Yeah.
May I, Wayne? So if number one is submittal complete, are there any subheadings of submittal completion that we would require to allow them to advance towards the request for an RFP? So are there submittals complete? Any subtitles to that that you guys would want?
Max said the Iran statement would be part B of the part. The Iran statement may be a sub part of the complete submittal.
So I would just ask that we a few notes under submittal complete. Number 1, Iran statement. Any thoughts on that, Wayne, or any of you other guys? And then number 2, financial stability. If that is rank 2, now what bullets would you want under financial stability? Here's where you kind of you're more cerebral with that. I'm like, and then we'll do the same with number 3 and number 4. Just bullets under those that you guys want to see to allow them to advance. And then the third one was references / resumes. So now, who are your people? What are their qualifications? And then if number 4 was innovation or viable technology. Now, how do you define that? And then those are check boxes. All 4 of these have check boxes of minutia as much as we want. That's my suggestion.
Okay. It's a good one.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
So is the first 4 the first of a first process of culling out some of the interested parties, and then this second part is another step of culling out those that just don't measure up?
It would actually be that, or you could say it's reverse. It could allow one to continue to stay in the yes bucket. I don't necessarily know that it's culling. It's allowing those who have the check boxes checked are continuing to rise to a point of, we request you submit a proposal. So yeah, it's doing both, Wayne. It's calling out. They don't have the check box, and they do have the check box, and that box is checked, and it's this, and it's going to become subjective at some point. That's where I don't know we can define every step, but I think we need 4 or 5 bullets, and under that 4 or 5 numerals and 4 or 5 letters. If we check them, they advance or cull.
First set of 4 was for submittal, was it not? And the second 4 is dealing with choosing? You know, in the first set, I said we might be getting a little too technical. Was that not submitting a proposal or whatever? And now the second 4 we're working on is our choosing to look at what they have?
Yeah, and I just didn't know if we could use the same set of 4 to kind of be the skeleton of
Foundation.
the choosing.
Yeah,
That should
you're
just be
right.
for us.
Piercy's right.
Maybe that should just be for us. You know, like when we start making a decision to be, okay, we'll take you to the next level, which is an RFP. This is what we do as a committee, is we have those steps for us. I don't think we have to put that in there for them.
But, okay,
Except for the Iran state.
I'm not disagreeing, but let me ask you this. If I'm a player, I want to know how I'm going to be measured. I want to know who's grading me, how am I getting graded, so I can play the system, so I can work the system. That's what I'm going to want to know. And I think you owe it to me as a player to tell me how I'm going to be reviewed. I think that needs to be clear, or fairly clear.
That's absolutely perfect. I think we should take right now these 4 criteria, take one and let's sub it, and then go to the next and sub that one. And that way they know exactly what steps we're taking. You know, like you said, submittal, all questions asked, answered, the correct information on your company, correct information on your partners and your board members. Did you sign Iran statement? Those things right there. And then let's go to the next one and talk about that. Talk about each one of them and subtext them. Just a suggestion.
I agree with that, and that's what you just said would be on this for the players to read. So what you're doing there is a teacher, you're teaching them to the test. They got to take the test to pass, so you're teaching the test. But as a teacher, you also have a grading system that's not necessarily in the grade book, or you can put it in the grade book, but nobody knows what they are. When I was teaching, it was pluses and minuses and P's and W's. So in the classroom or out in the shop, if you were playing or working, or you were actively engaged or not, that was, and what I used that for is if you had a really high B, I could move you to an A, but I would never take it away from you. It's just an opportunity to put one in that keep bucket if they've got something in there.
Good analogy.
Who's taking notes?
Steve?
So we're on 1, Wayne and Robert, if y'all are still with, so we're bullets under 1, under submittals completion. Did you get all of his? You nailed it.
Well, did you put in there, submit 11 hard copies and a thumb drive?
Oh, fantastic.
I did, thank you.
So, okay, so a notarized Iran document, 11 hard copies, thumb drive. Do we we don't need to be redundant in giving the address and the date of where it needs to be sent, do we? Okay. Okay, all right. What is, I'm going to leave some space here to add notes. What is item number 2? As you have it written, Becky?
Oh, as I have it written,
Or criteria
is
2?
innovation and viable technology is the one that's second on my list. And if they need to be in a different order, just say so.
All right. Do we want to add, is this where we want to suggest that you have to have X amount of months or years of operation, current operation?
We can put on there, is there a technology patent? We can put that on there as far, and then, I don't know how deep they want to go. See, I understand where you're talking about, it's going to make diamonds, but how does it make diamonds? I don't know how to.
Why do we care if it's patented?
Patent the technology, they own it. And then, if they don't own it, like Waste Away, them, for example, they own that technology.
Right.
I would like to know if it's patent. I mean, we don't have to, but I'm just knowing, did they already do the steps to get this patent and have the rights to it and all that? I'm throwing stuff out there, guys.
Yeah, I understand. What else? Keep throwing.
One of the things that was mentioned previously was 2 years of successful operation of technology within the country or the world or a certain geographic area.
You not want that to also say, and still working?
It's 2 years what we said. 2 years. 2 years.
Yeah, I think 2 would be fine.
That may cut a lot of folks out.
I just think we should have something proven. I'm sorry. I mean, I just feel like I'm kind of like you. I don't want to go chasing something. I want something, then you could say Fulcrum, but
Okay.
Fulcrum is got, technologies. They're using it, like you said, in Nevada. But
Okay, well, I'm okay with that, but let me remind you guys. There have been technologies that have been working for years in Asia, Europe, United Kingdom that hadn't even come across the pond yet to the U.S. So if you're going to do months or years, you need to clarify that it does not necessarily have to be in the United States. I'm just saying that ought to be a fair trade.
2 years of successful and continuing operation of technology within the world.
Or just 2 years of operation, period.
Throw a little monkey wrench at you. Anybody that's going to bring us a technology, they started with that piece of technology and had several failures before they got something that they could start working on. And then they build it up and scale it up and everything else. So they may have 10 years worth of experience with it and just now get it perfected. Fulcrum would be something similar to that.
So would you say a scalable operational technology? I'm just talking. Of at least 75% or equal size of what we're proposing in Rutherford County? Again, I'm just talking. If you want to talk about scale. I mean, yeah, we like your technology, and they can say, oh yeah, we've got one. Rutherford County's got 5,000 tons, and we've got one that's 3,500 in operation for 5 years. That passes.
I just thought, without saying names, we've seen some awesome technology from California to the other coast, but the end product is where it stopped. You didn't have a use for the end product.
The marketing wasn't there.
Well, whatever wasn't there. But I'm saying that's another layer deep. Okay, this works really good, but what do we do with what comes out the back? You know, and that's something we gotta make sure of. I mean, we're not going to purchase a pig in a poke, or however you want to say it. I mean, we're not. I don't know. I done said too much, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, we need a buyer. Need a buyer for the zirconium diamonds.
Well, we got to make sure.
Well, and I would say maybe you leave it at scalable, because the spread of tons is 45,000 to 325,000 tons a year. So if we're looking at just Rutherford County volume versus the potential volume for all of your residents that we talked about early on, and that's, you know, is it scalable to 45,000 tons? Sure. But is it scalable to 325,000 tons?
Well, then, under the technology, under that second item, innovation and viable technology, we need some correct verbiage then of a scalable, what would be the word? Proven? Successful? Help me out. Operational?
Put viable technology / proven in 2 years is what I put down. So I don't know if that states what you're. I think that's what we're saying.
Okay. Do we hamstring ourselves with the 2-year requirement? Because technology is changing all the time, I'm just asking.
I've helped do some ordinances and stuff like that, and building codes and city, county. You're not going to get a perfect RFI, period.
Yeah.
You're not, because there's going to be something we didn't think of. There's going to be a question we didn't think of, and I'm going to go, hello, help here. What? I don't even know what this is or something. So we can just do the best we can do. And I think a 2-year, my opinion, I mean, come on.
How about if we say up to 2 years experience? What if a guy comes in and says, man, I'm only operation 18 months. But this is the gee whiz, sure enough deal. But I only got 18 months under my belt. You going to kick him out?
That's where I leave it up to you professionals to decide what you want to do.
Just put the word preferable in front of 2 years.
Or it could be as easy as successful, scalable, operational technology.
But I kind of like it, up to, I don't know, what did you say?
Preferable.
Preferably up to 2 years of successful concurrent operation. And what else were we talking about just before that? About the end user. How can we slide in some language about if technology has a commercial, again, I'm talking, so I'm spitballing. If there's commercial, help me, Mac.
I believe you leave that with you playing and working, or plus and minus.
Yeah, because you're not going to have everybody with an end product. It's either going to be, well, it could be composted, it could be recycled, it could be buried, it could be dug up, it could be.
It's going to be removed from the site, though, right?
Yeah.
It's either going to be sold as fuel or burned as energy, or sent off site as energy, or very little of it, we hope, will be landfilled. So somebody's got to take it. And that gets back to your point is, we got to have a end user. And I'm just wondering if that even needs to be added to the innovation part. Does the technology have a marketable end use? Or, I don't know, maybe I'm getting off in the weeds.
Well, it's like what they had given us, in locations that we looked at. If you take 100%, here's 80% is recycled. I'm just throwing a number out there. It's totally wrong, I know. 10% is composted, or vice versa. You can flip them either way you want. So that's what, 90%? And so then you got 5% is got to be landfilled. I think they said that in one of the meetings on one process or something.
Yeah.
And I don't know where the other 5 is. I don't know. I might have done the math wrong. But anyway, I'm just trying to say, broken down, that might be this widget solution, but this widget solution is 100% compost or recycled or refurbished or
Yeah.
what is the end use for your widget that you're proposing to us?
You could ask for the waste flow. What's the flow of the waste? And basically that's from cradle to grave.
Most of them are going to tell us that we've got this widget and it produces this. But what you're wanting to know is this that it produces have a value to it.
Yeah.
So they should be able to tell us what this does.
Yeah.
Some of them is going to be waste energy and it's going to be steam or electricity. Or it's going to be some type of fuel source.
If we hire a company to do this, won't that be their responsibility and not ours?
Well, not necessarily true, because waste, I'm not going to say the name, but they said that they can convert our trash into energy, but we had to find a buyer. We had to find an energy company that wants it. We had to, all these things, and it sounds good, but if we got to find, and build a facility, we got to know that as well too. Because some of these people, they want to bid, they want us to build their facility and us find the end product.
That's when it would come back to being a proven method and in use for a year or 2 years or less or whatever would eliminate that.
All right. Getting back on track, under innovation and viable technology, we had the up to 2-year operational success, continued operational success. What else do we want to add on that?
Distribution of end product.
Okay.
If they can't sell it, they have to tell you they can't.
How about plan in place for distribution of end product? Anything else?
What about environmental consequences? Do we want to even look at any of that right now? You could get into quality of life, you could get into traffic, all that stuff. I don't know if you want it here.
Environmental impact, just put that down and see how they respond? I'm okay with that. Is that all right, Robert? Environmental impact?
That'll be okay.
All right. All right. Becky, what's the next item you had on the list in order?
The next item I have on my list is financial stability.
Financial stability. All right, what should go under that as a subcategory? If you want to do financials, how far are you going back? Or do we save that for an RFP?
mean,
But we want-
we said that we're going to deal with financials on the RFP.
Is
Said
They're going
RFI.
to submit a audited financial statement of the corporation,
Yeah.
or do we want to? We may not need to define it any more than that, correct?
That number two, the lack of competency are revealed by either financial statements, experience, or equipment as defined in the responses. So that would pretty much hit that, wouldn't it?
I would think part of that would be, do they want a public-private partnership with us, or they're trying to sell us something, or they just want us to take the product to them?
Do they want that, or do they want the county to donate land? Do they want the county to pay for the facility? What are they asking for the county to contribute, if anything?
So could you put like P3 question mark, county's responsibility question mark, and let them answer it? Okay.
I guess I was thinking about the entity's financial stability, and so.
But she brings up a good point. They may want something from us.
Is there a component of the financial statements, a copy of the latest available certified financial statement of the respondent certified by an independent CPA? Is there any, that's in the RFI on previous pages. Do we want any dissection of that at this juncture? If not, I think we can move on.
That may be even something you can put up in the submittal complete. Did they include it, and was it certified?
Well, I'd still like financial stability to be an actual heading, and under that, at least
A reminder of what they have to give.
they're in the black, or they're viable. They're
I think that's some of the ones that I did was physical year revenues was one of the things I had in there, and also had growth rate over 3 years.
under financial stability growth rate over a 3-year period.
Fiscal year revenues. I don't know if you want to put that in there, but that at least tells us if they're making progress, or if they're a startup, or
Right. It's all legal to ask that, isn't it? Okay. Yeah, a growth rate over 3 years would be a great indication on.
So we got that in there, Wayne Blair. We got the 3-year growth rate in this component now.
Okay.
What was your other heading, Becky?
References and resumes was the fourth one, and then I have one more.
Well, that would just be of the team, project team, and then 3 references, right? What else under that?
I put reference to Form 3, completed Form 3 in this one. Basically, that's where they're identifying the company, the technology provider, if they need a designer, who would design the facility, construction, operation, and maintenance.
Right. What was your other heading?
The last one was historic performance.
Did we cover that with, under the innovations part? Do we need to take the up to 2 years operational success and put that down under historic performance?
Depending on what that would be defined as, we may have covered it in a couple of the others. Through the 2 years of experience or 2 years of operating capability, and then the growth rate over the 3-year period, we may have answered that question in the other in the other 4 categories. But if there's something else you'd want there.
Yeah.
Other than ones that were mentioned previously, I have noted level of specialty, social contributions, awards and recognition. Those were some of the ones that you mentioned on the front end. I don't know if we want to include those, but those are just going back to your initial list.
Those could fall in under the references/resumes as well. If we were going to put some of those bullets, environmental awards, educational awards.
Yeah. Perfect. Awards, recognitions. All right, let's everybody stand up and shake it out for a minute. And then we'll have Becky review this outline. And then we're on the home stretch. Review these few items on the criteria, and that way if we have any blanks to fill in, we can. We'll get one more fresh look at it.
While we're waiting, I've got a question.
Yes, sir.
About our process. What we're doing here tonight, does it have to go before the full commission or not?
I think it'd be good if it did, because at some point in time, all 21 commissioners are going to have to sign off on whatever we do.
But it doesn't have to go through the budget process, budget committee?
No, sir. Go straight to the commission.
So it's possible that if we did iron this out tonight, could we possibly put it on the commission floor tomorrow night?
We could bring it up under the business. The agenda's already been mailed out. Rachel did that, but we could bring it up under your report or under other business. Without objection, you could stand up during your report and say without objection.
I could give an update and say, this is where we are. We're 99.9% finished and ready to hit the go button. And yeah,
that's correct. Yeah, you don't want to delay it another month.
No. All right. Keep rolling? Okay, all right, we'll let Steve catch up.
Yeah, there's somebody camping out on the east steps.
Oh, okay.
West steps.
We got a squatter? All right.
Yeah, he didn't want to get out of the rain.
All right, well, welcome back, everyone. I'm going to have Becky just review the outline that we just went over, and that way, if our brains trigger something we've left out in any of the categories, or if we've put something in one that needs to slide up or down in the process, we'll do that. So Becky, if you would just quickly review.
Okay, we ended up with 4 categories. We started with submittal complete, and under submittal complete, I have the notarized IRAN statement, 11 hard copies, a flash drive, included completed Form 1, which is their general information, and included completed Form 2, which is the cover page, which shows which functions they plan to send a proposal in on, or which functions their proposal addresses. Under the Number 2, the innovation and viable technology, preferably up to 2 years scalable concurrent operation, distribution of end product. I have to decide a waste flow diagram. I don't know that we want the diagram, but a waste flow diagram as well. And then the environmental impacts of their system. Number 3 is financial stability. And I have the county's responsibility, a P3 with a question mark, growth rate over the 3-year period, and fiscal year revenues. And then I have under number 4 is references and resumes. The 3 references, Form 3, which is participating entities completed, social contributions, awards and recognition.
Do we need to define the resumes as the project team resumes? So they know what we're after, resumes of the project team? And then what did you say under historic performances?
I thought we had decided that that one was actually included in some of the others. If there's
Okay.
anything new I need to add there, I'm glad to.
So there is no category for historic performance. Is that what I understand? Okay, so all right, I'm glad we took a break, because I had under historic performance, I wrote down environmental awards or recognitions. Is that important that we know, or they get a chance to brag about that? And if so, did we move that up to innovations and viable technology, or?
Have that listed under references and resumes.
Okay, all right, that'll be under the resume part, okay. All right, did we leave anything out? Do you want to add anything? Do you want to move anything?
One comment, I agree that you referenced form number 3 in that, under the references.
Mm-hmm.
I just know I've experienced this. They may not have all of these yet. So I would like to leave some latitude. They may not have a financier, well, I'm not going to, they may not have all these yet. It's
Right.
early.
What if we
So-
said Form 3 included, not completed?
With as Form 3 included, Form 3 completed as much as, yeah,
Or if applicable, or?
If applicable.
just as thoroughly as possible, or
Okay.
some words to that effect.
And Form 1 and 2 both fall under submittal compliance, right? Number 1? Is that where Form 2 goes also?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. All right. I want everybody to be happy before we hit the gavel on that section. Virtual, you okay?
Yes.
Thumbs up? All right. Mac, you okay? Mayor, you okay?
Yes, sir, I am.
All right. Now, timeline, I think we've already filled in the blanks on the timeline. Becky, stop me if I'm speaking out of turn.
Did we want to include an optional interest meeting or a mandatory interest meeting or not?
How could you frame it differently in terms of if we just wanted to receive questions?
In the next section, the inquiries, all questions related to this RFI must be submitted in writing to Steve Sandlin, Deputy to the Mayor, in the Rutherford County Mayor's Office no later than such and such time, Central Standard Time, on such and such date.
So here's my personal thought. Based on all the COVID business the last couple of months and the fact that a whole lot of people are now trained on virtual meetings that they weren't before. Is it necessary to have a on-site meeting in the county, even though it's not mandatory? And expect people, if they choose to travel, the expense of travel, air flight, and again, not knowing where the world is going to be in 60, 90 days with the virus and what restrictions there may or may not be. Do we need to have a physical meeting? Could we have a virtual meeting or skip that part and move to a question phase in the next paragraph?
I would be an advocate for striking this statement altogether.
Robert, Wayne, how about you guys?
I think if we do have a meeting, we could make it virtual.
Okay.
I don't know that we need to make it mandatory, but if we had questions and, we were seriously looking at someone and I had questions that would make a difference on whether they moved on in selection, then, a meeting in a Zoom meeting or face-to-face would probably be an option. So I wouldn't rule that out.
All right. Then Becky, I too would be more apt to vote for a virtual meeting, but then the very next question would be, we need to check with our IT department because there may be some restrictions, don't know, I'm just talking out loud. There may be some restrictions on how many people can actually enter into whatever format we use, Zoom or Team or whatever it is. I don't know if they can accept 50 at a time, 100 at a time, 500 at a time. There's got to be some restriction. And I don't know what the county has in terms of how many people can be on at one time. So
I don't know, Mr. Chairman, what we paid for. I think we can do up to 100. It comes in blocks.
Yeah.
Like AT&T, they'll do two or 3,000 at a time.
Yeah.
But I think it's 100 per block on Zoom.
Yeah.
We really didn't like the Team Microsoft platform, so that's why we end up going to Zoom, which we're on now. So we can qualify that for you tomorrow.
So the question may be, for that one meeting, do we buy extra blocks at a one-time thing, or do we have multiple virtual meetings through the course of one day? And Steve just has to answer the same questions over and over and over, which is at a disadvantage because I would rather have everybody on the line at one time where they can hear all questions and answers so it doesn't get redundant.
Public meetings have been extended through the last executive order by the governor through June 30.
I would suggest no meeting, no virtual, no on-site, no in-person, nothing but inquiries delivered to, it's some method, inquiries delivered, and in this case we're suggesting to Steve, and then a response going to everybody who has, I don't know who the responses go to, prior to the submittal. He doesn't know where to send them to. If he gets a question, the only person he can respond to is who asked the question. So
That's what I was saying earlier. Why can't they just send us questions and let Steve answer them? And if he don't know, to answer them, we'll answer them. But I mean, if we got to have a Zoom meeting with 100 people, I mean, I'd just rather them send your questions. What is your questions, and we'll answer them.
And
that way, we ain't having to deal with all that.
You can actually post them on your website.
yeah, we totally. I've already there. Yeah.
Website questions?
And that's the whole purpose, Mr. Chairman, of the RFI is to do it fast and quick. It's not to bog down. That's going to come later in your RFP. I would suggest that as we've done a really good job here tonight, but I would write this down, rfp360.com. If between now and the time that we get ready to put out an RFP, it's rfp360.com, and it gives you a really good breakdown of the RFI and what its purpose is, then the RFQ, what that difference is, which is a request for quotation, and then what you do for the RFP. And it's based on different industries. If you're purchasing, you want to find out more information from your vendor for IT, or if you want to find out more information from your vendor in the construction industry, it's all outlined on this website. So it's really good information just to go in and give you a good background as we move into the next step.
Okay. All right. I'm okay with not having a virtual meeting or an actual meeting, but what you, I believe, said clicked the light bulb on. Perhaps back in item 1 under submittal compliance, let me just free talk here for a second. Do we need to get to request a team member email contact? I guess where I'm getting to is I want to know if they're of interest and are going to do, if they're going to send some kind of a proposal to us as soon as possible, so they can be on a legitimate email chain. Because when Shanto calls Steve and asks a question, and Steve answers, that question and answer has to go out to everybody that we sent a proposal to, and I think that's going to be cumbersome. But if we had a response email list, say 2 weeks after we send out the RFIs, and we ask that if you're going to participate, you check the box, yes, I'm interested, no, I'm not. And those that responded yes, send a contact name and a contact email, and maybe even a phone number. That way, that goes in the send to file, and then all these questions and answers that get circulated around, we have a master participant email list. Is that doable? Does that make sense?
It's doable. Some of the outlets will end up being organizations that have membership. So may or may not know who those members are that would be interested in responding unless they reach out first.
I don't follow you. Give me a for instance.
I'll use the Solid Waste Association of North America.
Yeah, okay.
If we send this into the national office and they distribute it to all of the membership, then all of a sudden it reaches however many thousands of people.
Okay.
And they would need to let us know that they plan to.
But if the RFI submittal, whatever the thing is, I can't read it.
Submittal complete?
Yeah. If one of the check boxes says, we need your response, I'm going to speak American here, in or out by June 21st, and send email address, contact info, and contact person for all question and answer correspondence between now and June 1. That way we know who the players are.
And we could do that in the inquiries section on page 1.
I'm just trying to make it simple so everybody that has a question gets the questions back.
For sure, and that's important.
It's like sending out an addenda on a set of plans on a spec change. All those bidders get the same thing.
When we sell equipment, we put it out on GovDeal. And if it's coming out of my department, my email address and phone number is listed on there. So if they're looking at that equipment, they have a question about its condition or anything else, that comes to me. So if we can set up a similar type thing, when this thing goes out, here's where you have to look for it. And it may be, somebody mentioned it earlier, it's on our website, and there's a special place on our website. If you've got a question about the RFI, you go here. And then everybody can read those questions.
And I guess, now that I've blabbered for 5 minutes, maybe the easy way is we just put all the questions and answers on a special folder on our website, the RFI folder, and I don't care if they respond or not, if they're going to bid. If they want to go look at the questions and answers, they can, up to July 30th, and then they can FedEx their package to us by August 1st or 3rd, whatever it is. Yeah.
But I think you're onto something. I think Becky on page 1 under inquiries is going to say if you intend to bid, or if you are in or out, shoot us an email. I mean, we're still going to do that. I think.
I think that's a way to at least get that mailing list.
Your suggestion is going to make the RFI.
You might get at least 80% of the people to respond. A lot of them may wait till the very last week to put something together, but.
Some of them will.
Okay. All right. What else, Becky, on this RFI have we not covered yet?
The one thing I do want to point out, and I think this is still valid, on page 4, where we talk about landfill reclamation, it's number 7 in the list of functions. At the very bottom, we do recommend that in order to visit the Rutherford County Class 3-4 landfill, that you contact Magnolan. So I think there is still that option for anybody that may have the question. There's still that option to call and actually see the property with Mac as an escort.
Yeah, and did you also make a note that the borings report and the boring samples and report will be available upon request, let's say after whatever, pick a date. July 1 or something like that, I don't know.
We could say upon request, and if they request it, then we can answer
say
the
it's not ready
question.
yet. Yeah. And I guess we may need to clarify what that soil borings report is about, and that would be for those interested in mining the existing county landfill. We got to explain what the report is about.
It says the additional information will include results from recent landfill exploratory borings and estimated volume of solid waste and soil at the landfill. Do we need to add more to that?
They need to clearly, Bubba needs to know, okay? Bubba needs to know that report is about those. He'll find in that report, if anyone's interested in mining our existing landfill, they'll need that report. I don't know how you want to say that, but for those interested in mining the current landfill, they will certainly want to access. Is it? Okay. There you go, sure. Yeah, it is in there. It's a long night. What?
I said we've been talking trash.
Oh, yeah, talking trash for a long time, I know. All right. What else, gentlemen, what string have we left untied here?
Inquiries, the last page, inquiries related to this RFI must be submitted in writing to Steve. Our emails approved, and I'd like someone else to be copied to not force Steve to be accountable for every.
Yeah.
For a miss, say he misses something, whatever. I just think he's left out there to dry, so.
2 emails, right?
Copy someone. Mac would be my suggestion, if you're okay with that. And email submissions are approved. Would email submissions are acceptable? This says in writing. Page 8, inquiries.
Oh, yeah, last page.
Talked about allowing yes.
Ask, is that someone be CC'd?
Oh, for sure.
Or mail needs to be taken off. You don't want a paper text or.
No.
Yeah, that's right. Scratch
And the email
mail.
is date and time, yeah.
So all those in favor of adding Mac Nolan's email to the... Okay. Congratulations, Mac.
What is our date and time again for the inquiries deadline?
Inquiries deadline. Should we set that, how many days in advance of the
You need to take into account, they're gonna need to send the actual package here.
2 weeks prior?
That gives you time to answer them and for them to actually reference what's there on the website and then come back and fill in. You know, if that answer changes what someone else has done, it gives them time to.
What's 10 business days prior to August 3rd?
August 3rd is the Monday, first Monday, so the 4th will be the Public Works meeting. We decided we didn't want to do it then. Do you want it still come in that time and we'll just have the meeting later on and actually open them? Is that your intent?
We're going to open these at a special solid waste meeting, so it will have nothing to do with the regular Tuesday Public Works meeting.
Okay. So I don't know what date that would be, but I would say the last date as to ask questions would be Monday the 25th. No, I'm on the wrong month. Would be Monday the 27th of July.
Monday the 27th? That sounds awful early. I mean, that sounds not enough time.
Is that a week or 2 weeks out?
It's, if we're going to open them week of the 10th, then that's right at 2 weeks.
But the deadline is August 3rd.
They have to have them in
here.
August 3rd.
All right, then if you want the 2 weeks before that would be July the 20th.
Okay.
Why not July 1?
Full 30 days?
Some a month.
No more questions after July 1?
And there's no question about if someone has already sent it and they say, oh, well, I got the answer to that question and I didn't.
We'll get a question at the 11th hour, and I just don't think that's going to be fair to these guys. Yes, yeah. June 30, July 1. Is this a suggestion?
About July 5th. Split some difference. I think 30 days is too much. Because I'm telling you, some of these people won't look to even open the envelope until 2 weeks. Yeah, I know. July 5th.
Okay.
July 6th. Monday, July 6th. All questions cease July 6th. What else we got? Close of business day, July 6th. Or 4 p.m. Central Time, July 6th. Man, you missed a good one.
Anybody?
Now, is everybody happy with the RFI? Mayor? Rachel? Mac? Becky? Committee members? Thumbs up. Wayne? Thumbs up? All right. Okay. To me, this is a landmark evening. We've come a long way. For the record, let me say this. First of all, I want to thank everybody. This extra special solid waste subcommittee is an extra duty for everybody, and I appreciate everybody's willingness to participate. There will be more. The RFP will be even more arduous, but it's necessary. What we have all learned over the last 18 months is that managing this whole solid waste effort is more than just landfilling. There is a lot of things that play into this. The publicity, the education, which we talked about, the engineering, the planning, the long-term planning, gasification, recycling, waste to energy, construction demolition, all of it. Waste diversion. It's a complex thing to wrap our hands around. What we are about to undertake is something that this county's done for decades, and that is to partner with other vendors through an RFI process. And that is basically where teams come together to get to a point where we're not yet. get to a point in the future where we're not yet to be. So this helps us get there. Where we want to be doesn't exist yet. And that's where this RFI comes into play. The RFI is going to help us get to what we want, but it's also going to uncover things that we need we don't know we need yet. And that's what the beauty of these new technologies are going to do. And then kind of where Robert has tried to go to and is always concerned about in terms of costing and financials and the full commission is, once we see these different opportunities, then we'll have the ability to see the revenues it's going to take for us to make this thing work. I say thing, it's going to be things. This isn't just one thing. This is going to be a multitude of technologies, in my opinion, that's going to make this thing a seamless process. If we want to be a 90%, what's the word? Diverted. If we want to be 90% diverted by the year 2025, there's a price tag for that. And in the next coming months, we're going to see what that price is going to be. So we're going to see what things are going to cost. We're going to have to decide what we want to do. We're going to have to, the commission is going to have to decide what we can afford or what we want to spread on our constituents throughout the county. So there's a lot of hard decisions to be made. We all want the pretty coolest, neatest thing that is, we all want those monkeys to take trash and make diamonds out of it. And we just got to see what we can afford. So a lot of work ahead of us, but we have come a long way, and I'm very proud of this bunch. Very proud of this bunch. So with that, meeting adjourned.
Wait. Wait. No. Do you need a motion from this floor to move this into tomorrow night's commission meeting?
Sure, why not?
I make the motion that you move our results into the full commission meeting tomorrow night.
What are we doing tomorrow?
Yeah, Craig, in the Public Works report, I'm basically going to explain to the full commission that we have reached a consensus on an RFI, and we're about to release an RFI, and we'll be happy to post. I will ask kindly if Rachel wouldn't mind. Wait a minute. First of all, we have to get a completed draft, updated draft from Becky. When that transfers over to Rachel, I will ask that Rachel put a copy in everybody's commission's mailbox, and that I will ask them tomorrow night that it will soon be forthcoming, and for them to be looking in their mailbox for the new RFI that will be going out globally. And this is the first huge step in the Rutherford County Solid Waste Program.
County attorney reviews it.
After the county attorney approves it, of course. I can't believe I didn't say that. All right, anybody else? Adjourn.